right, so here we are at the 9 o'clock position on Metalopolis. We have from Team 6 Jacks, that is ViBe, spawning as our green Zerg player. His opponent down at the 6 o'clock position is trying not to be too biased, but I got to admit I'm a big fan of this guy. That is Liquid Jinro, the Gorilla Terran himself. He is spawning as our yellow Terran player.
I've always been a fan of Jinro ever since Brood War, when he was known as Frozen Arbiter on Team Liquid. Everyone loved him. He was a great poster. He was a moderator for the SE2 general discussion for the longest time, and no one really knew Frozen Arbiter as a good player in Brood War. But when StarCraft 2 came out, he stepped up his game. He made this his dedication and his commitment, and he even went out to South Korea to train with the best players in the world, played in Codas, and honestly, this is just a story of among many, such as Huck, such as no one else really comes to mind right now, but a lot of players who weren't known in Brood War, but just popped out and became the best in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, the people that have made the transition early have done very, very well, but you've got to say, once some of those true Gosu Brood War players start coming over as well, I know we've talked about this the last time we were on, but when you start having the likes of Flash, Jaedong, Bisu, so on and so forth, once they come over, we can only imagine. So.
I dream about that in my sleep. The day when Flash and Jaedong come over, the rivalry between the greatest Zerg and the greatest Terran come back. I hope they stayed the same races, because a lot of the old Brood War pros that are switching over are changing their races around. We have Toss Girl, who originally played Protoss in Brood War, then switched over to Terran, so then her name was kind of invalid, and now she's Zerg in StarCraft 2, which makes her completely, a triad of races, if you will. And that's kind of cool, but I hope that some of the old pros stick to their races, because I know a lot of players love the player themselves. A lot of viewers love the player themselves because of what race they play.
Right. And, or at least they become heroes. If you play a particular race, you tend to look up to a very, very good player of the race you play anyway.
Exactly.
So you feel a little sense of betrayal whenever that person switches over to another race.
If Jaedong switches over to Terran or Protoss, I am going to quit casting. I'll be so sad and disappointed.
So here we go.
Yeah.
We have, it looks like ViBe decided to drop down the early expand, went hatch first into pool and then gas after that. Jinro, on the other hand, he went after, he did end up putting in gas, so no sort of gasless expand, no sort of 2 racks marine attack or anything like that. He is just saving up a little bit of gas for a nice factory, so we are going to have some good old-fashioned Hellion play here in a bit.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a Hellion opening here for Jinro. I've seen Jinro use Hellions almost all the time against Zerg. He's a very good user of Hellions at that. Extremely effective at harassing the Zerg player where it counts, when it matters. Looks like we may have a little bit of a lag here from Jinro. They just paused the game a little bit, but of course that's going to be rectified immediately. And we do have a Marine and an SCV chilling outside the natural area. I wonder if that Marine's going to get the Overlord, which would hurt a little bit for ViBe. The Overlord now dropping below 100 HP, and the drone's coming off the line to save that Overlord. So and the link's now coming out, and I think ViBe will keep that OV alive. Very interesting timing for a Marine and an SCV to be out there.
And ViBe playing pretty well. He's not overcommitting to those links. He only has out that normal 6 lings to go ahead and deny any bunkers being placed down. Things like that. Immediately goes back into droning and puts up a couple of queens after that. So, okay, there we have it. Jinro actually doing the expand behind the factories, actually putting down that expansion before he even gets out 2 Hellions. So there we are. We are going to see a couple of Hellions here in just a second. There's 1, there's 2, and he's going to be able to hold off a pretty good Zergling force at his front door. And we'll see how aggressive he gets with these Hellions. ViBe, on the other hand, though, there we go. I was about to say, I thought he was going to drop down some sort of spine crawler. There it is. So we'll have the queens and the spine crawler to defend behind.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that a Zerg really wants to do here is be able to throw up some kind of a building right there to kind of make it difficult for the Hellions to run in. But it is kind of hard because the creep takes some time to spread. So the first thing that a Zerg typically does, especially if they see a reactored Hellion, is throw up a single spine crawler. It can work wonders against the Hellion, and then with conjunction with your queens, you'll be able to defend the Hellions fairly easily. And note also, speed is on the way, so ViBe should have a pretty potent defense, especially considering there's no blue flame upgrade coming out.
And looks like Jinro going to work on this queen. Now, actually, I don't know if you've seen the patch 1.4 notes yet, but one of the changes is that they're actually decreasing the vision of units on the low ground looking up to the high ground. So
yeah, I noticed that.
Would make that attack not possible right there.
That's actually a really, really good upgrade for Zergs, and actually it's pretty nice for any player that, like a Terran, they can wall off and they can use their Marines to keep Zerglings away as well, a little bit easier. I really like that change, but I honestly love the change. The change I love the most is the Hellion upgrade or de-upgrade, if you will. They only do half as much now with that blue flame, which
Yeah.
is, yes, so good, man.
Yeah, but your
That makes me
infestors
so
are
happy.
getting slammed, so I don't even care.
I never use infestors. I play a lot like Idra. I use Muta Baneling exclusively in ZBT.
Gotcha.
I rarely ever use infestors.
So you're about to have a huge buff to your game. So, all right, here we go. Speaking of Ling Baneling,
Makes me
though,
very happy.
ViBe does have Baneling that's coming out, as well as the hatchery, so he's going to be able to get some upgrades soon, and maybe even move into those mutas we were talking about before. On the other hand, Jinro took a while to drop down his natural expansion. He was keeping it inside his base and just using multiple mules and double SCV production for a while to completely saturate his main before he decided to move out. And he's going to try and push him with those Hellions once again, but ViBe has pretty good coverage here. It's going to be very difficult for Jinro to get in and do damage.
Also note the great placement of the Evo chamber behind the natural expansion for ViBe. He has that chamber there just to prevent the Hellions from going around the mineral line, which can be really annoying for Zerg players. So it's nice to throw up those buildings and prevent any access points wherever possible. Form the terrain, if you will, into something that is more advantageous for you, and that's exactly what a good StarCraft 2 player will do. We do have Spire coming up here for ViBe, which is pretty important. Given that they spawn right next to each other, Mutalisks are going to be huge. Jinro, on the other hand, has opened up with a fairly fast starport, and he is getting dropships out right now. It would not surprise me to see him go out with some drop attacks here, and basically lift up some Marines, some Hellions, and drop them right into the main of the Zerg.
Yeah, certainly. The positions lend themselves to that as well. I like that he's still open with Hellion Harass, or at least tried to, because it at least gets ViBe to commit over to those mutas, and there's a good possibility that Jinro will know exactly what's coming at him and he'll be able to defend it. But ViBe is going up to a third base unopposed. Jinro's not really been able to stop his economy at all, so ViBe is macroing free. He's saving up a good bit of gas. He's going to be able to put up a lot of mutas whenever the Spire hatches. Jinro now finally moving out with this attack, though.
I don't know if he's actually going to attack. Yeah, he's going to elevator into the main. That's what I was thinking he was going to do, since he has 3 dropships out already. It's actually faster to elevator in. I love the creep spread. That's the creep tumors extending themselves to the south just to help the Zerg if the drop were to come, and that's exactly what ViBe has going for him. He is going to spread those Lings and Banelings around. He's going to get the Banelings in, devastates that drop. Wow. Jinro is able to unload a couple of his units, at least half of his forces out of there, but that went pretty well for ViBe, although there's a Viking behind the mineral line of the natural as well, and it looks like some Zerglings were able to pick that off. I think ViBe comes out pretty ahead after that attack.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, and that attack was stopped pretty well. Exactly. Yeah. And Jinro, let's actually take a look at his turret coverage. Well, it's non-existent. He has the engineering bay coming up now because I do believe he saw the Spire. Yeah, he saw that constructed, so he's trying to rush out that engineering bay as fast as possible, but the mutas have already hatched, which means that this turret coverage may be just a little bit too late.
Yeah, it looks like there's already enough turrets going up, and that's what you would expect from a player of Jinro's standards. He knows when the Spire is coming, he knows the timing of it around the 10-11 minute mark, so he's got a lot of turrets going up. A Hellion also running in here to scout the location of the third, which has gone up, and it looks like ViBe is going to try to get in with the Mutalist, but almost gets cut off and almost lost the Mutalist as well. That could have went pretty badly, and he still hasn't found a way to deal with this Hellion, which is getting a couple of free shots off, kills off a drone, maybe 2, and it's going to be able to get out of there. No, it's going to go down.
This is actually a really cute micro decision by ViBe as well. ViBe actually an extremely high APM player,
yeah,
for Foreigner especially.
Usually like 200 plus at the very least.
And what he did there was, as he was being attacked by the Hellions, he decided to take his hurt drones and actually turn them into extractors. So that was his method of saving those units. That was really, really smart.
Yeah, it's just a good way to save your unit. It only costs like 5 minerals because you get to cancel it after the extractor is being morphed. And it looks like ViBe is trying to find a window to attack the Terran player right here, but it seems to be really, really hard as Jinro's got everything locked down. He's got turrets at the right spots inside his main and his natural. He doesn't really have an opening for those Mutalisks to come in, and that's surely pretty frustrating for a player like ViBe who, you know, if you're going to invest this money into Mutalisks, you've got to do something. You've got to at least force the Terran player to construct more turrets. You've got to pick off a few SCVs here or there, and it looks like he is doing a decent job of sniping a couple of turrets before they go up, but I don't know if it's that much damage has been done yet for ViBe to justify the cost of those mutas.
No, at the very least, though, he's pinning Jinro to 2 bases. Jinro's third expansion only coming up now. He sees the Banelings there on the high ground, and he's going to try and drop down a couple of Marine bombs, it looks like. Just take out those Banelings one at a time, make them not very cost-effective. I actually like this. This is kind of cute. He's dropping down and then re-picking up the forces one by one run as he does a little bit of damage. So Jinro knows that he can't drop down a huge attack like he was planning, but still finds a way to do damage. On the other hand, though, ViBe is getting his 4th base. It's about to finish, and he has almost successfully cut this map in half. Already has a spotter overlord to the right-hand side as well, so that should effectively shut down drops. Jinro positioning the forces over to the right, though, so we may actually see, with that relatively small group of Marines, get picked up into the medevacs and at least an attempt of a drop made.
We may have an attack coming here from ViBe, who has a lot of mutas and banelings on the map, certainly using some baneling burrow tactics as well on that road, which is going to hurt pretty bad for those Marines if they run over the asphalt and they are unsuspecting of those burrowed banelings. And we do have a lot of mutas banelings going around the side. ViBe is not going into that typical infestor play that we've seen him do so much, and he's using more of the Idra style muta baneling, the old school season 1, and it's working pretty well for him. I think if he can get some damage in, no, the Marines are there, they're going to deflect those mutalisks. And we do have a double drop going for Jinro at the top.
2 things to note here. One, this is actually really interesting out of Jinro. He's actually not going for a PF at his 3rd base. He's actually going for another orbital command, and that could punish him later on if an attack comes through. A PF can be make or break sometimes on a base, or oftentimes on a base. So Jinro waiting now, gonna make his way down to the 4th. Doesn't look like ViBe is prepared for this, so the units were going across here, across the path of the Overlord, but it's very possible that Jinro just got this by undetected because the mutas were coming in. But he sent 1 Marine out to do a little damage. That means ViBe's going to pull all, or at least to scout ahead. That means ViBe's going to retreat with all of his forces.
And we do have the mutalisks coming right into the main here. That's a lot of mutalisks. That is enough to take out those Marines. And you know, a crucial hit right here for Jinro would be to lose all those reactor, the reactor add-ons to those barracks. If they go down, that could be bad for the production of Jinro. And we do have a big attack coming in here. The banelings running in once again, Caps, like you said, without the planetary fortress, that orbital command is quite defenseless. A lot of SCVs going down as well, and ViBe escapes with a lot of his lings and banelings alive. Great attack right there.
Yeah, there we go. That's kind of what I was talking about before. Had that actually been a planetary fortress, as it looks like Jinro is actually going to be able to take down this hatchery at the 4th. A few links being brought in, not going to be there in time. Jinro could pick up, but Jinro could pick up. No, not going to do so, unfortunately. But he is defending a mutalistic attack here over at his main as well. Wow. Good number of Marines coming out. They are going to start to do work on the Mutalisks. The Mutalisks has successfully taken out a couple of supply depots and a few units as well. And it looks like ViBe is just going to come in and move and try and kill all these Marines straight up.
I don't know about that. ViBe, you're making a serious gamble, hoping that he can kill off all the Marines and then go for the production facilities, but he's got to deal with another attack on the other side of the map as well. Jinro, knowing that he's lost that 3rd command center, knows that he's behind. He has to make an attack, and he has to make it count. He's got to kill off this 4th hatchery, but I don't know if that's possible with the amount of lings and blings on the map. More Marines holding off the line against these mutalisks here, but it looks like the Marine count has started to whittle down, and now the production is under attack. It does seem like there's still that attack pushing forward for Jinro as well. He is going to be able to cancel that hatchery, and what a battle we have going on in Metalopolis.
Actually, that hatchery wasn't canceled, but it's okay because ViBe has 2,100 resources banked, so that's no big deal. He is going to make his way in, and he has actually camped quite a few production structures. Jinro only has, oh my god, Jinro only has 2 racks, 1 factory, or 2 factories, I guess, and 1 starport at his disposal for a 3-base economy, and that is not going to be enough if he needs to rebuild his forces.
Yeah, the thing is, he was relying so much on his reactor cores, and he only had maybe 4 or 5 barracks total, but he just lost 2 of them. That's a pretty significant loss. He will not be able to reinforce his Marines, and we have a massive attack. Banelings and mutalisks rolling in. Great Marine spread from Jinro, but it's not enough. There's so many banelings here, and all the tanks blasted to death, and the mutalisks will be able to get rid of all those dropships as well. And I don't know how Jinro can recover from this. He is transitioning into Thors. He's trying to rebuild his barracks here, but it may be too little too late. He's down by almost 70 supply. I just don't know how he can get back in.
No, that's a little rough. And the production structures are coming back to hurt him right now. 4 more barracks are being put up in an emergency, but the production hasn't been realized from those yet. So Jinro floating precious resources despite the fact that he needs to reproduce as many units as fast as possible. And with the infrastructure he has, he simply can't do that. Here comes the swing in from the Lings. A lot of workers are going to go down. Even the costly, or the very, very useful mules. ViBe swinging in with a good number of units to the right-hand side as well to follow up this attack, and produces a bunch of Corruptors with Greater Spire coming up. He's going to be able to transition into those Broodlords very easily. Jinro is certainly going to need to make something happen.
Well, he does have his stores up, but those stores are really, really late. No doubt as a result of him losing so much production from those meterless constantly attacking. We have some burrowed banelings hiding on that ramp as well. I love the positioning of that. Not a standard place for a Terran to comsat. So the possibility here of Jinro losing more Marines is quite high, but he is probably going to camp this third base and try to re-macro out of it. The problem with that is ViBe has complete map control right now. The creep spread has reached the main. The creep spread on the high road has almost reached the third expansion, and he's double expanding at the same time. So right now ViBe is in a superior position. He even has infestors coming out with fungal growth, so he's going to transition into the late game ZVT style of infestors and broodlords. I believe he even has a greater spire up as well already. So everything going great for ViBe. He's going to fly in here with more Mutalisks again. The Thors are completely out of position, and it forces the GG out of Jinro.
Right away, Jinro leaves the game, so unfortunately he goes down 0-1 in the set.
Yeah.
We're going to have game number 2 in just a second.